You're now locked into Radio Juxtapoz, the home of contemporary art and culture conversation.
Coming up today.
Me as an artist, I'm not planning on making the best painting or sculpture. I think as an artist nowadays, it's more interesting to try to come up with concepts.
This is Radio Juxtapoz. It's a cold February morning here in the Spanish city of Valencia. At only 11 a.m, it seems a bit early for paella, so I've settled for a coffee, accompanied by a freshly squeezed orange juice upon the waiter's insistence. However delicious they are, the oranges of Seville and National Treats will both have to take a back seat, because I'm here today to focus on a much more important export. Our guest for this episode of Radio Juxtapoz, Felipe Pantone. Like the rest of his identity, the real name of Felipe Pantone is unknown. Despite being one of the most high-profile artists to emerge from the graffiti scene in the last 2 decades, Felipe cautiously maintains an enigmatic air around his persona. He moved from Argentina to Valencia at a young age and quickly found a footing in the local graph scene. Over the years, he's created a visual language that goes far beyond letter forms, with his bold, disruptive aesthetic now one of the most instantly recognizable in the world. His practice is a direct response to the interconnected chaos from the world we find ourselves in today, one that breaks boundaries between physical and digital worlds. Right now I have about an hour until I meet him in his studio, so I think it's best I use that time to prepare properly.
Buenos días.
Buenos días. Felipe, interview 1, take 1. We are sat just now inside one of the studios.
This is my old studio, and when I got this place, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be good forever. It's gonna be awesome. This is gonna be my setup until I retire. And for whatever reason, I decided to get all of these machines, and of course it didn't fit. And so now it's like my office, and that's it. So all that space over there where you see the cars, that used to be where we actually made all the paintings and where everything happened. Really, I actually had the same spray booth that you saw at the big space. It used to be right here.
Okay.
Right in there. And I took it away, and now I don't know. It's my office. So the other space, as I said, there's a lot of machines and it's loud, and it's not the kind of place where you would sit to think, So here, it's quiet, it's nice.
This is where this kind of pre-production happens.
Mm-hmm. We have meetings here. I do all of my computer work I do here.
And further context just beyond that, so which part, we're in Valencia, in Spain.
We're in Valencia,
just
Spain,
taking it back a little bit.
In southern West Europe. and Europe would be like on the right side of the planet Earth.
Keep going.
Milky Way, whatever, Yeah, and this is we're in the city center of Valencia.
Yeah, it's a really nice neighborhood. I came to Valencia a few years ago, and it was in the middle of the big festival that you guys have here, the Fallas, and it was, thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the streets. And this is probably a better chance to see the kind of the reality of Valencia.
A little bit quieter, I'd say. But Valencia is nice. You've been here. It's like it's not very pretentious, I like that. It's a very chill place. It's a great place. As a base, I always say the same thing, but as a base, I think it's fantastic, Like nothing really happens, which I really appreciate. You can just focus on, and then you get to travel, and that's good. The airport is like 15 minutes away from home, so.
Exactly. When your life on the road is so hectic, I think it must be nice to have that kind of that tranquility to come back to. That's not so. He's just dropped his mic. That's not so tranquil that you're like out in the middle of a Scandinavian forest or something.
I kind of need, to live in a city because we actually produce things that are not that easy to make. So, I need supplies, and I need to be in an industrial area. But of course, I don't. It's not the forest, but it's quiet at the same time, for sure.
Something that comes up a lot because it's so synonymous with your with your story and kind of who you are is, you know, the idea of being born in Argentina, then moving to Valencia. I came off the back of a project recently with Axel Void, and the whole thing was around the idea of home, and I wouldn't ever really normally like to bring projects into other things, but with you it just seems like such an obvious point of reference to start investigating into a little bit more about your story. So you moved from Argentina, you've spent most of your time here in Valencia, but if I say to you, you know, where is home? Can you attach it to a place? Can you attach it to an object? Can you attach it to a person?
Yeah,
Do you have
I'd say
something?
Maybe Valencia is the most similar thing to home, really. Like I feel good every time I come back, you know, it feels great. That's true. Every time I'm ending a trip, I'm always getting excited, you know. Like every time I'm about to head to the airport, I'm always like, yeah. So that must mean that it's kind of home, I guess. But at the same time, I'm very used to be everywhere. You know, I mean, I feel good anywhere. Like I don't know. I'm not really homesick ever. You know, I'm very comfortable. Like in every country, really. So I don't know. I guess that has a lot to do. My mom, when I was a kid, my parents weren't doing great. That's the first why we moved, changed countries in the first place. And I remember we used to, I think until I was like 10 or 12, I changed schools like 15 times. It was crazy. We would change neighborhoods all the time because they couldn't pay rent. And my mom used to say, this is great for you. It's going to be great for your personality. And I was like, I want to make friends, you know, can you just fucking stop somewhere? And so I guess in a way it makes sense, you know, like I feel good.
She was right.
Yeah.
Eventually. Yeah. Do you have any memories of those early days in Argentina? Was it political turmoil at that time? Or what was it?
I mean, Argentina is a mess, man. It's a beautiful country. It's beautiful people. Horrible governments. I mean, it's crazy. Right now, they're in the same shit as, 25 years ago. It's always the same. You know, it's beautiful. It's such a rich country, as in like natural resources. Okay. Also culturally, it is actually. People are very educated, but I don't know. It's Latin America, you know. It's a mess, and so yeah. No, I have good memories, but I don't know. I moved also when I was very young. Like for the first time we moved to Spain, I was 6. I turned 7 in Spain, and then we failed, so we went back to Argentina. And then 2 years later, 3 years later, when I was turning 10, we moved back to Spain, and we actually stayed.
Wow! So that was a lot of bouncing around at that age.
Yeah. But I mean, I was a kid. It was all good. You know?
Yeah.
I just wanted to have the same friends for more than 3 months, but it's fine.
I mean, I couldn't tell you a single friend I have that was a friend from that age. So
there's people. We're friends since we were like 4. What?
Yeah.
Wow, how's that?
Yeah, you see that, especially on like Facebook or something like that. They'll pop up and it's like, wow, you are still hanging out with those same people. You are crazy. Like just go to a bar on your own or something. Go join a club.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
do something.
Yeah.
So then, of course, you started graffiti at a very early age.
Yeah. So when we moved here, we moved to Alicante, which is like 2 hours south from Valencia, and it's it's a little town around Alicante, and there's lots of graffiti, you know, very touristic, and like graffiti everywhere. So I just...
Was it just for that then? What was it that kind of pulled you in? Was it because you saw kind of older kids doing it, you saw people around you doing it? Was it still a rebellious thing to do, even though it was everywhere? Definitely rebellious, because, of course, my parents didn't know until I was like 16 or something. I started doing graffiti when I was 12. I would hide my pain, it wasn't good. But of course, I always used to draw since I'm a kid. But then, for example, I'm thinking right now, my cousin, for example, he had nothing to do. I mean, he wouldn't like to draw, but he would paint graffiti too. So it was more like something in my neighborhood, like all the kids we used to play football and then just do graffiti, I don't know. There were older kids that did it, and we did it too. But of course, as I always like to draw and everything, I was like really into it. All the kids would, I
I did a demo, a rap demo when I was a kid too, and then we used to break dance. I don't know, hip hop was like around.
So you had tried. So it was part of hip hop culture. So you had tried the other ones, and Graph was the one that stuck.
Yeah. I can't show you my demo because it was on a cassette tape and I lost it. But
Oh, that's convenient. That's really convenient. Do you remember the first time that you painted? Do you remember that experience?
of course.
Can you paint a picture for us?
So I mean, first it was tags, of course, and markers, and then I picked up a spray can. But I do remember my first piece. I don't have a picture, but I actually have a really good memory of it. I don't know, it's very vivid for whatever reason. It was a chrome and black piece, and I remember the letters and everything. I'm not gonna tell you what I wrote, but
Was this before Pant came?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you
In fact,
just hinted towards
no,
it,
dude,
didn't you?
listen. My first tag. Listen to this. I'm very proud of this. My first name was Cadillac. How good is that? How many letters? Hold on. Insane. But yeah, I wrote something else on my other, and then Pant came, and the Pant one, and that stayed. Actually, I chose that name when I was 13, probably. I have no idea what Pantone was or anything. It's just random.
It's funny that you had picked Cadillac and then suddenly cars have come back in later on, full circle.
Yeah.
Like 20 years later, suddenly cars are back in the system.
I don't even know Cadillac. That's such an insane name, man.
One of the things that I've heard you say in previous interviews is that graffiti is very much a game for you.
That's what I think.
And I completely get this, and you can maybe talk about this, but more importantly, what I'm wanting to know is if graffiti is a game, who's at top of the leaderboard?
Well, the Kings. That's how it works. Actually, it has a name. The who kings are the kings of the line, or the kings of tags, or the kings of, I don't know, the subway systems, or in Europe, or in whatever. It's just I think that's how it works. And I mean, I think the crown is passed by the other graffiti writers. Like, I mean, you see it, you see. Or nowadays it's Instagram, So I don't know. People would say you. I mean, I just heard about this. We're talking about this before. These guys in New York, that they're doing all these whole trains. They're fucking kings. And people say it when you see that video. Well, the comments you see below is like kings, whatever.
Definite kings.
You know what I mean? So it's that's how people pass the crown to each other.
As a point of reference then, so if you are listening, then it was like a week ago or something like that, a couple of weeks ago, these videos started emerging on the internet, just popping up, and it was like full 10-car productions, whole cars completely taken out in New York. And it was like, this is the first time that this has been kind of happening. This is the first time I've seen this kind of imagery come out of our generation.
In New York?
In New York,
like,
in New York.
That crazy, probably it's the craziest thing that's happened ever since '84, the Vandal Squad came in.
So then, I guess the other thing is, how do you feel then about graffiti? Graffiti as a subculture, it gets a little bit of a hard time from the rest of the art world, because street art seems to be, it's absorbed and everyone likes it, everybody wants it. But graffiti, no matter how long it's been around, how much cultural value, how much psychological and sociological reasons there is for its existence, you're never really going to be able to convince some 60-year-old couple in the middle of England that, graffiti is a great thing for their city. It's a harder thing to convince. How do you feel about the current state of graffiti? Do you think it's really bursting out, live and kicking, as strong as it's ever been?
I think it's great that 60-year-old couple from middle of England don't like it. Like, it would be crazy if they liked it, So, yeah, the thing with graffiti is that it's for us, by us. Not for me anymore. I don't really paint shit these days. But we're not. People are not really trying to please anyone other than graffiti writers. So that's why it's always going to be sort of underground, Like, and it's never gonna be hitting the art market or the art circuits in general. I don't think it's. I mean, this is not the most popular idea, but I don't think it's really art.
Ooh, that's controversial.
Oh, I don't know if it is. I mean, that's what I think. I think, like you said before, I think it's a game. Although it has a huge cultural value, like you said before as well. Yeah, no. I mean, in fact,
Just I'm gonna just stay on that for a second. Why don't you consider it to be art?
no, because I think art history. There's a whole timeline. There's like innovation. People are trying to tell stories. Graffiti is not trying to do any of that. It's just it's competition. It's a game. For me, graffiti is a game that you win by getting more visibility. It's a visibility game, and that's it. And you're competing against other writers, and wins the one that paints the most places, the most times, the most style, the newest ways. But at the end of the day, you're not trying to like tell a story, to express yourself. I wasn't trying to express myself, for the past 20 years. I was just writing my name on things, so other graffiti writers would see it and be like, "Fuck, he did it, I didn't." That's it. It's a game.
Do you think then, as outsiders, people, probably myself included, being part of that outsider world, do you think we have a kind of a tendency to try and overcomplicate things and attach meaning and symbolism to something that it just actually doesn't need that? It's simple as...
Absolutely. Of course, it has legs. I mean, I was a leg myself. Like, I was doing graffiti, and then in graffiti, I found a way to be very visible. Meaning, I found a style. For example, my style, actually, like all this black and white contrast, all these vivid colors. That was a way for me to be like, yo, I'm here, and my piece is maybe louder than the guy painting next to me because it's like super contrasted and very saturated. And that's how I found my current style. So that led to like street art or urban art, however you call it, muralism, and nowadays like more studio work. So of course it's not limited to graffiti, but what I think the core of graffiti, the actual essence of it, I think it's as simple as a game. That's what motivated me in the first place, and that's to me what it is. Of course, you can grow from there and find things which makes it even more interesting.
Did you ever get any experience of, because the graffiti scene it's quite masculine, it's filled with rules and things like this, and there's always this problem when people kind of cross over these things. Did you ever experience any of that, kind of coming out, doing more murals and doing more commercial work? And did you ever get any kind of like feeling from the graffiti community that they were like kind of putting their back up and being a bit funny about it?
Absolutely. I think people are scared of change in general, and that happens in whatever industry, businesses, sports, anything that's something and it has rules. When you break the rules, people are gonna get weird, like, why are you doing that? But I mean, of course you get questioned, but it's I think it's totally fine. In fact, I think the world is leading towards like it's embracing. People are nowadays, my generation, your generation, we're embracing change way better than we used to. Like baby boomers, they would get married and get one job and die the same way, where nowadays you might be living in London now, maybe next month you're in New York, wherever you are, like you don't really have a job, we're like freelancing, we have a girlfriend and you don't, I don't know, it's all messy, and we're embracing change way better, our generation, and in that way, I think art and, graffiti, whatever, people are like more, how you call it, like more fluid,
adaptable.
Yeah, we're more adaptable, and I guess it's not. I don't know, and I really experienced this in graffiti, for example. Like I remember before when I started painting, not so early, of course, but in '98 I started painting, and I remember I had friends like, no, don't send any of your pieces to magazines, And I was like, why? Like magazine's cool, so the people say it. And then the internet came in, and people would be like, don't post the shit on the internet, just keep it for the magazines. We're like, whoa, so what's the difference,
1 minute I wasn't allowed to do this, and now I'm not allowed to do this.
And then you open an Instagram account. Oh, fuck Instagram! Why Instagram? Keep it on MySpace. You know what I mean? Like people are always like trying to stop change, but nowadays I think it's all messed up. Like graffiti writers and whoever, everyone is posting their life on social media. You know, everything is like more loose, I'd say.
For the better.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm very pro sharing.
Yeah.
I think sharing is a good idea. I mean, what I do art, right? So that's what I can talk about. But if someone makes something interesting in Korea, and I can see it like the exact same time, that shit might inspire me, and I can maybe come up with something thanks to that guy, you know, or I don't know, technology. Everything is. I mean, sharing is what's making us evolve so quickly. In the last, I think, 20 years, we've evolved as a species. I mean, way more than in the past 200 years. Yeah, so it's insane, you know?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. It is a completely different trajectory at the moment from what it looks like looking back.
And that being said, graffiti must be a really good thing because it's still around, pretty much with the exact same rules as in the early 70s, you know? So that's kind of weird if you think about it. Everything is changing so fast and so crazy, and graffiti is pretty much pure and intact. Why is that?
I've always found that so. I can't. There's no way in hell I'm going to be able to give a proper answer to that question. But I do find that's one of the things I find so fascinating about graffiti culture is the fact that it's supposed to be, you know, this idea of rebellion and breaking the rules and going against the grain, but it's completely weighted down with so many rules and so many procedures and like, this means this, if you do this, oh, you can't do this way. Get the fuck out here with that stencil. Like, you can't break that here. Yeah. So there's all these things which just kind of, it seems almost counterintuitive, but maybe that's its key to survival.
That's what I think it's a game. Again, honestly, like, why would you change poker if it's a good game, you know? It's just a game. We're enjoying it. Like, don't fuck with us. Like, you know. Yeah, that's why I think.
So going back to yourself, then, you have obviously an incredibly. You go for an artist's first language is in English. Your English is fantastic, and I'm assuming this is something to do with the fact that you lived for a brief period in the UK, or was your English this good before then?
No. So I did. I studied fine art, believe it or not, and I spent a year in university in England in Leeds.
In Leeds. This is the thing I wanted.
Have you been?
Of course, I've been to Leeds. This
nice.
is what I wanted to pick up.
What were you doing there?
They have a festival there. Which isn't even in the Leeds city centre, it's just outside. As someone from Britain, I found it was just such a curveball. And I think it was actually first when I saw the Selena video, and I was kind of watching it, I was like, oh, yeah, this all makes sense. And he went to university in Leeds. I was like, okay, this is different. So what was the attraction towards Leeds? And more importantly, what was the experience like in Leeds? Because it's such a huge cultural difference to, you know, if you go to London, you get a vastly different experience, and Leeds is something a lot more regional and a lot more specific. So what was that like? Because you seem to speak quite fondly of your time in the UK.
I had the best time ever. It was awesome. I don't know. I mean, I was doing Erasmus, you know, in Europe, this thing where, you know, I think students change schools for a year. So it was insane. I think it's, in fact, 150,000 students living in Leeds. So you can imagine the pubs, clubs, drugs, scene. I mean, fucking crazy. It's, I mean, it was so much fun. You know, I had the best time ever.
It's funny because I find it always for a lot of people kind of coming from the continent, it's a different, you know, you guys are classy. You're a lot classier here on the continent.
I mean, I like seeing girls holding their heels and walking down the snow.
Stumbling out the club in the snow,
barefoot,
like a belt for a dress, holding their heels, makeup running all down their face.
So good.
A bag of chips in the other hand.
Exactly. and queuing to get a burger at McDonald's at 5 a.m. Yeah, that was beautiful. You know, that was the best thing I've seen ever. So, but at the same time, like I was kind of like immersed in this student bubble kind of thing. I was 21, 22. And so it's not that culturally shocking at the same time because you're a student at the end of the day. But I mean, living in England was amazing. I actually have a lot of friends in London. I used to come down all the time to paint with the guys over there, London, Brighton. So yeah, I painted a lot. I had a great time.
So when was the period of when did you first start to see this transition away from letter forms, from what was graffiti, and start to experiment with something that became a little bit more of an abstraction?
Right. So in 2007, I was probably 18 or 19, but I organized this festival. And that was 2007. Yeah, internet wasn't big at that time, right? I don't even remember, but no. I mean, I guess there was MySpace, maybe. So I organized this festival, and I invited Sozi One. I don't know if you know him. He's from nowadays my graffiti crew, but he's like he's older. He's born in '77. He was a king. When I invited him, he was, I don't know. I remember seeing him in covers of like Serie B, like street art magazines, like graffiti old magazines. He's from Brussels, and I invited him to this one festival. And I was like, when I picked him up from the airport, he's actually the singer of De Puta Madre. De Puta Madre is like the first recording hip hop band in Belgium. Mm-hmm. They have a star in Brussels somewhere on the floor, you know. That's how important they are. They're like old school, you know. And so I invited this guy. I'm a little kid. I'm picking him up at the airport. There's this huge rapper, you know, comes in, and well, anyway, we ended up being friends. And until then, until I really met Sozi One, Pablo, his name is Pablo. Until I met Pablo properly, I didn't even know that you could make a living out of doing graffiti. That's when I really understood, like, hold on, what? Like, you can be an artist too? I was like, so I just painted my name on things, you know, up to 2007. And literally, this is I'm telling this like certainly because I thought about this like recently. And I was like, holy shit, he would tell me stories. So the thing is that he came to my festival, and I asked, so why are you here in Alicante? Why did you accept to come here for 200 euros fee? That's how much we could afford to pay. He said, no, dude, because my mom lives here, and I really wanted to come see her. And, you know, I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, he, like 6 months later, he moves, like he leaves Brussels, and he moves to this place. And so we became really good friends, and he would tell me, no, I'm going to like Hamburg, I have an exhibition, I'm going to Paris, I have another show, I'm going to Cologne because I'm painting, there's this new train, he tells me this story, there's this new train line that goes from Cologne, stops in Brussels, Amsterdam, all the way to Paris, and it's a high-speed train, it does it in 3 hours, 14 minutes. So the gig was, they got an artist from Paris, from Cologne, from Amsterdam, and from Brussels. He was from Brussels, and the gig was to paint the whole car on the train in 3 hours, 14 minutes. You know, that was the gig, and they would pay him 10,000 euros. That was back in the days. I was like, wait, what? Like, are you getting to paint the whole car in 3 hours and give you 10 grand now? I mean, I couldn't believe my eyes. You know, I was like, holy shit, this is. I mean, and he actually enlightened me, like, wow, you can be an artist too? I was freaking out. Anyway, so ever since I kind of like digged into it, you know, like, and then at the same time I was studying, in art school, so I was like getting to read, to learn art history, and yeah, I think it went from there.
So during art school then, how much did they embrace? Did they know about this graffiti side? Did they have any inkling that this was something that was part of your practice, whether it was like out in the open or not? And did they kind of embrace this side of things? Did they get what you were trying to do?
Not at all. Like, yeah, not at all. In Valencia, it's super, super academic. It's like I don't know, like all techniques. It's all about like a model, figurative painting. It's like super, super old school. But I mean, for some people works, you know, like, I mean, I know how to paint your portrait really well with oil painting. I've been doing that for 5 years. But at the same time, it was horrible for me, you know. It was honestly, I had a really bad time. honestly. And so yeah, they wouldn't give a shit. They never asked me what I did. In fact, the first time when I went to England for that 1 year in Leeds, believe it or not, I mean, I just sat down with my professor the first day, the guy that would take care of me, and he asked. I mean, as soon as we sat down, he was like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, "So what are you into? Like, what is your practice?" And I was like, what? That was the first time actually anyone from university asked me that question, you know. And I was like, wow, well, that's funny that you mentioned that. Like, I do paint a lot on the streets. In fact, at that time, that was the first time I was kind of like doing art, or maybe street art. I was doing graffiti, but then I was starting to do like street art in a way. I had my graffiti thing that was always there, and then on the side I was starting to do like kind of like typographic illustration on the streets. So it was kind of like writing. I can show you. It's just like I was writing things and then like phrases, you know, kind of like phrases. Like I don't even know. But they were cool. I mean, I'm still proud of that work. You know, like I was doing that with Ausi as another. He's nowadays a graphic designer. We were kind of like a duo, and we were doing all these murals. And this guy, I told him this, told this professor this story, and he was like, "Wow, that's awesome. I have nothing to tell you about that because I'm a sculptor. Actually, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I really like the concept. How about you read this, read that?" And actually, don't ever come to class because just do your thing on the streets and show me every couple of weeks. And I'm like, sounds good to me.
That's a sweet deal.
Exactly. So
He's now been fired.
No. And so that's the first time I would like embrace that. I was like proud of it. Like, wow, I'm actually making art here. That's interesting.
So, in your experience then from art history, I mean, I know it's quite well documented and you can see it quite visually. There's a huge connection to kinetic art and to op art. Is there a period of art history aside from this that you're particularly fascinated with or drawn to?
I'm very fascinated by everything that's really, really disruptive. So I would say the avant-garde and onwards. I don't know. I've been doing like Velázquez shit for all my studies, you know. And even though I like figurative painting and everything, but it's not for me. Like I think that's been investigated so much, you know, that definitely I don't have anything to contribute on that regard, you know. Definitely not me. Or I'm definitely not interested.
How quickly did you find that out? Was that?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of always knew it. I was happy to try, but
Yeah.
I think there's so much more to investigate these days. So many technologies to apply to. But that's my opinion, though. So yeah, I mean, everything that's the avant-garde, you know, I was like, I don't know. Nowadays, if you ask me what I'm interested on nowadays. Like, if I could collect work, it would be, you know, minimalism. It would be, I don't know, artists from nowadays that are working nowadays. Like, I don't know, I can give you a million names, but anything. I mean, I'm always gravitating towards like abstract geometry and also like new digital kind of art. You know.
So you were saying, as we were talking before, you obviously go to a lot of shows, and you were saying, you know, when you were showing it Untitled, you definitely pick up little techniques and ideas, and you know, you cherry pick things. Do you find yourself kind of constantly engaged with the art world, and what kind of things do you like to explore from as a viewer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I visit art fairs as if I was shopping for, I don't know, plumbing fairs, you know. I guess like plumbers they're like, oh, look at that, you know. I think as an artist it's super important to stay updated of what's going on, especially if you wanna contribute on it, you know. Like I think it's, I don't know, I see art history honestly like a timeline. I like kind of like science, you know. If penicillin's been discovered, you want to move them to something else like cancer, you know. I mean, don't go back to penicillin. We got it,
We got it. It's good. It's safe. It's in the bank.
Let's
next?
try something
Yeah.
different, That's how I feel it. How I feel about it. So for me, art first is like, I go kind of like shopping, like, look at that. Oh, that's interesting because of whatever reason, At the end of the day, we're trying to like find ways to express things, and what's the and you want to get like rid of everything that's not the most important, make it simple and make it go straight to the point. And it's always good to visit these places to like find ways, find how other people do it or how you tell that story. And
There's something interesting in that idea about kind of constantly moving forward, and kind of, you can see it with the way that you explore new mediums and new dimensions of how you can engage with your practice. With that, then, there's obviously an ephemerality that goes along with graffiti. It comes, street art, it comes and it goes, and this is like part of this timeline that you talk about. When it comes to your canvases, though, this is something that is outside of that. It's painted or whatever it may be, and it's fixed and it's permanent. And that's it. It doesn't get to have that ephemerality or that kind of that journey. How does that feel against the grain for you in any way, or does it not bother you?
No, not at all. I think it fixes a moment in time. I'm not planning to do the same painting over and over, but I'm happy I did that one painting. So I'm happy that it stays there. It's kind of like marking a moment. And but yeah, I'm definitely trying to like move forward, to keep walking. Actually, I think that's what's fun about, well, I'd say everything, life in general. I don't want to stay in the same place forever. I don't want to retire at the same factory forever. And I wanna live. And I wanna walk, and I wanna keep having fun in the path. And I think that's how I see art or my journey. I enjoy very much being prolific because I think that makes the journey longer. When I see, not trying to compare myself or anything, but when I see Picasso, for example, that's insane. That guy he achieved in a lifetime like worth of 5 lifetimes probably, because he was so prolific. He changed so much he started doing like very classic academic figuration, and then he ended up, he doesn't even know where. That was insane, and that's because he kept moving forward. For me, that's a really good way of looking at things. And I'm gonna try, of course, once sometimes it gets comfortable, like of course, like my galleries, they always ask for the same one painting they once sold, and they're like, can you make 15 more of those? And you're like, dude, how about this guy? How about this? How about I tried something different. I am trying. I think it's what makes it fun.
Do you think this relationship then with technology and especially digital medias, without sounding like a really old man there, do you think this is going to permanently change the way that we experience art? And if so, as someone that probably spends a lot more time looking at this kind of stuff than I think most of the population, what kind of shape do you see that taking?
I think technology has always been very connected to art, right? Like for example, Middle Age, like one of the darkest or the darkest time in recent history, when oil paint was invented. Then Renaissance came in, because that's actually linked to the invention of oil, which is a great technology, And I think nowadays I don't see myself using 15th century technology to paint my work. I have to be using whatever is available in my times. That's how I feel. Although, And this is the most exciting time ever. Like now it's like every 5 minutes there's a new technology. So of course I haven't tried them all, but I'm very open. That's for sure. That's for sure. Like I'm super open to try anything. And nowadays I don't know. I'm using like printers or I'm using, I don't know. I try things in VR, AR, projection mapping, whatever. But I think what's coming, we can't even imagine what's coming. That's how exciting these times are. Like honestly, I think we're gonna be making art that is like we can't even dream of at the moment, you know, because same way we're gonna have flying cars that we can't even dream of, you know, like that's how it's evolving.
I like you. I really like your excitement for the future.
Oh, for sure, man. Are you not excited?
I am.
I mean, look at all those fucking cables that you have around you. That's not gonna be there. It's gonna be way more sleeker and nice in the future.
Don't knock my cables, man. He's. We walk into here. You go, Alexa, lights on, and I'm sitting here with cables coming out of everywhere, and everything's wired up. I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. This is wireless.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I mean, can you imagine? Like, we're shooting this interview with something, all of this stuff, something that you brought on your backpack. I mean, it's insane. I mean, I think we're leading towards some things that are really, really exciting for sure. How am I not going to be excited about the future? Something
I'm quite interested about is something you just touched on there, because you do explore, you know, virtual reality projection mapping, AR, QR codes. How do you get involved in these projects? Do you just happen to have a guy for each of these?
I do have one guy for. No.
Like, what's his name? What's his email? Give us his details.
I don't know, man. I try hard. Like, for me, I'm really driven towards it. I don't know. I want to be updated and I want to try things. I mean, of course I do enjoy like making paintings really still, because I find new things and I don't know. I still enjoy it. But on the side, like if you show me something new that I can make work with, I mean, I'm super excited. And so I don't know. Like, for example, like the face filters on Instagram, I was on the beta before. Now it's open and everything. But when they gave me access to that, I mean, they gave me access because one day I saw this that it said by somebody, and I'm like a new filter, and it said by somebody. I'm like, what?
Like,
there's people contributing to this shit. Like I thought it was just Instagram putting them out, right? So, I mean, I was like, I want to contribute, you know? So I talked to that one guy, actually, and he was like, well, this is super beta, super close, so I don't think you're going to get access. I emailed Instagram, they gave me access immediately, and I was like, dude!
Send that guy an email. Yeah, see, I got it.
No, but I mean, they gave access to like creatives and stuff, you know? So it wasn't that hard. But yeah, I downloaded the thing, and I tried, and I contributed somehow. And it's not just because I want to make a contribution. It's just because it's really exciting for me. You know, like it's something that very few people have done. You know, I want to try.
Is there something beyond that idea of just kind of creative exploration? Because it just fits, especially with the filters. When the filters came out, they just worked so perfectly with Felipe Pantone. You know, you don't show your face because you don't want to be, your face isn't the content that we're focusing on. You want the work to be the content that we're focusing on. And these filters just seem to fit quite nicely into that. Is there something more to this?
I mean, I made them fit because, I mean, that's actually literally the first thing that came up to mind when I saw that guy. I mean, somebody making filters, and I'm like, whoa! I need the filter, you know, and I don't need the filter that you made, like because
that's yours.
No, because it didn't cover the face or whatever, you know. So I'm like, I want to make one. Shit, this is awesome, you know. And I made one that actually covered my face, and I'm like, great, I got it, you know. Now I can actually talk to the camera. It was a need, you know. So and then of course, I did a few like. One that's called Subtractive Variability, which is a series that I work on, some of my work that explores like layers of like pure CMY color. And so I made one like that, and that was I think it's very interesting. It was a different application of this one concept, and I think that's a good thing, you know. Like me as an artist, I'm not planning on making the best painting or sculpture. I think as an artist nowadays, it's more interesting to like try to come up with concepts, you know, like so for example, this one is a subtractive variability. I try to explore color through layers of pure color, right? So that can be applied to anything. I make sculptures with that. I make paintings. I made a filter that's literally that. I can make. I actually made a projection mapping installation with the same concept. So yeah, filters was another great opportunity.
Brands are a huge part of your identity as well. And this is something that I wanted to explore a little further with you, because it's kind of touching on what you were just saying there. You know, you are as an artist, you're not just, you know, I'm going to make the best figurative painting. I'm going to explore new terrain and explore new ideas. And brands seem to be one way of allowing you to do that, because there's funding behind the projects. You know, it's like your choices are, I either find an individual financial backer that supports me, I do it myself, or I find the right brand to do the right project. And for you, what is it that really is the difference between something that you will agree to work on and something that you won't?
So yeah, brands are important. It's a way of doing things that you couldn't do otherwise sometimes, you know. And of course, I mean, for me, we were talking about this before, it's very important to be honest and to work with people that you would, or products that you consume already, or things that you support, you know, in a way. I wouldn't make an ad for, I don't know, for a fast food restaurant that I don't appreciate, you know. But I think it's a great way of doing things. I think, for example, as a imagine music artist, sometimes when they get successful enough, your art is not gonna get any better. Meaning, when you can afford the best recording studio that you wanted to get, which is not that expensive these days, after that you're gonna perform in front of more people and you're gonna get more reach. But your art is not necessarily gonna get better. Whether for visual artists, the more funding, the better. Like if I want to create, I don't know, like an insane installation on the Brooklyn Bridge, you need fucking funding. You know, you need, I mean, what we do is material. It's expensive sometimes, you know. In fact, things haven't been going really bad lately, and I could afford to buy a huge printer that I wanted to buy to make this idea happen that I wanted to make, for example, you know. So yeah, I mean, for our practice, I think funding is important sometimes. Depends on what you want to do. But I do have ideas that I can't afford right now. So hit me up.
That was a really, really subtle way of doing that. I like that. It's like, it's just like, and we'll leave his email at the bottom in the description.
And subscribe. The button is right here.
Like and subscribe, share the podcast. We never do that one. Something on that note that I find probably, that I think a lot of listeners would find particularly useful is some advice from you then. You know, how did you get to that point where you were able to start engaging with brands? Did you reach out to them? Was it because of your kind of coded Instagram practice? What was it that allowed this? And maybe it's slightly different over 10 years or whatever it's been, but is there any kind of advice that you have seen or kind of stick to?
Not really, man. I mean, honestly, everything for me has always been very organic. I never had any plans, really. I'm just walking down the street and things are, and I see apples on the trees, and I grab them. No, not really. I never reached out to anybody. I just do what I do, and I don't know. Brands sometimes hit me up, but at the same time, I don't think brands is the way. It's like what you have to do. I just collaborate with some because it's they offer great opportunities sometimes, and they allow me to do things that I couldn't do otherwise. But if you don't need the funding, or if you don't, or it's not what you're looking for, I don't think this is the way. It's just a way.
What does a show offer you then that you don't get in other areas of your practice for you personally, like an exhibition? Because you've just done a solo show in Mexico, which looked amazing. I think you won an award for that. No?
Oh no!
Well, you won a little something for it.
We did two things. We did a big solo show at the gallery itself, and then the gallery we went to Zona Maco, which is the largest art fair in Latin America, and of course the gallery had a booth, and then in the booth there were many artists that they work with. I had a painting there, whatever. And then we had another booth, which is like for a more like experimental side of the gallery. Oh, sorry, of the art fair. And that was a solo booth. And we won an award for best booth on that thing.
Yeah.
So very
Sorry, I got
excited.
them slightly confused there.
Oh, I mean, I'm just trying to explain because it's confusing. Actually, on Instagram and everywhere, I didn't even know how to communicate it because it was so much going on for me. Like, we did so much work for that shit. I mean, solo show and solo booth project and some work at the gallery at the fair. Insane. So yeah, it's hard to understand. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm working on these days. That's where I'm having the most fun at right now. Shows at galleries. It's I've been doing these many murals over the last years, and work on the streets, and I of course really enjoyed it. But I hit a rock. Like, I'm not evolving anymore. You know, for a moment I tried everything I wanted to do. I tried painting murals, like freestyle in front of the wall. I painted murals on scaffoldings, on cranes, on. I projected. I tried freehand. I did with tape. I don't even know. You know, I did things with spray paint. I did things with roller paint. I did. I don't know. I tried many things, and my design. I don't know. Like, the outcome wasn't changing so much lately, so I think it was time for me to move on. Like, last year, I did 2 murals only, which is crazy because probably 2018 I probably did 50. You know,
Is that just part of the keep moving forward?
yeah, I mean, I think I've done a lot, you know. Like, I don't get excited anymore unless, so for example, in Russia I did this one project that I incorporated light banners, like huge light boxes on the wall, and that was cool. That was the first, you know. But then other than that, you know, or in Vegas I did some with neon lights, which is also very, very exciting. But I don't know. You don't really get those many opportunities like that, or I've done it already. Those two, you know. I don't know. So now the studio is so much fun. You know, like I do have the studio set up that I wanted to have, because you know, all the machines I used to use them, but I would outsource, and it's really, really not the same. Like, now I think of something, and next afternoon there's a prototype. You know, we can literally do all the shit ourselves, which is insane. It's I mean, I think that, so going back to brands, like collaborating with big brands, and you know, when there's like money, you know, you can invest in your studio. I think that's for me, that would be the only advice that you know, I would give to someone. Like, invest in your shit, because it's now, you know, I can make everything, and it's so much faster. Like, literally, it's like boom. I mean, ideas, manual labor goes as fast as ideas these days for me, which is insane. You know, usually I would think of something and then send something to cut, to print, whatever. It would take a month between everything, you know. Have a truck, send it somewhere, send it back. Now it's so much faster, and that's making the work evolve way faster. I don't know what the question is anymore.
The question was ages ago. We've moved into new terrain, but in a good way, not in a bad way. Not in a bad way at all. Can you maybe just give us a rough idea of your current setup? Because it's, you know, it's pretty serious.
I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I do have like these 2 studios. This is more like an office space, and then I have this warehouse where it's loud, and I don't really want to be there all the time. But yeah, I mean, there's laser cutters, CNC router, huge flatbed printer. There's a spray booth. There's a whole like workshop. We have a lot of shit, and as I said, it's a great team. Also, let me talk about my team. my team
on the
great.
drums we have.
No, the team is great. Like, I do. Oh, I mean, first of all, we're all friends, which is, I mean, except for 2 people, I don't really know who they are.
Except for Kelly, we hate her.
We're all friends. I mean, from before, you know, and then, but it's like this friend of mine that he's a graffiti writer, so he is right now at the spray booth, you know, like he paints really well, you know. It's like if I did it, you know. Then we have 2 engineers, which is they're amazing. These 2 other guys, a graphic designer, this other industrial designer. It's it's great, you know, like I can really communicate what I wanna do, and they actually come up with solutions. Actually, it's really interesting that the work is going in every direction. And it's not just me, although I, for example, paintings, I design everything. The concepts are mine, you know. But then, for example, applications. Say, for example, I don't know if you've seen my subtractive variability circular works. They spin and everything. So that's me coming. I mean, I have the concept. I do that on paintings, and then I go to studio and I go with some concerns. Like, I would love this shit to spin on a wall. And then 2 days later, they come up with the solution of having a few like pulleys, you know, and how to attach it. And we can create. We actually create even the pulleys ourselves at the studio with the CNC and everything. So it's that's insane, you know. Like I want something to slide, and they make it happen, you know. And I think that's how everything works these days. It's not just like information will go only one way. Before it was the newspapers, and then you would receive it, you know. And then nowadays, no, you can edit your own Wikipedia page. It goes on every direction, you know. And I think that's how life should be, you know. Like everything is collaborative these days. So yeah, I'm the artist, but nowadays the team is so important, very important.
On the subject of your kind of these really moving, playful sculptures, do you feel something different for these than you do for something that's digital? Do you have like an inherent attraction towards something that's analog, it's made with bearings, it's something robust that you can play and move and pick and pull? Is there something intrinsic in you that is?
So this is something that obviously is influenced by kinetic art. Those guys were really exploring this in the 60s, and but I think it applies very much to nowadays. You know, I think, of course, like change and transformation and all this, it's something really characteristic of our times, and like I said before, like the fact of, I think interaction it's an insane characteristic of our times. Like nowadays, everything is interactive. It goes in every direction. Like I said, you can edit your own Wikipedia page. Like it doesn't. I think it's very interesting for me as a spectator of you know, for the art to be transformable, for you as a viewer to be able to reposition it, recreate. It's all recreation. Is it recreational nowadays? Maybe. Like it could be. I don't know.
Let's go to the final hurdle of this journey together. Talk to me about the future, just the future in general, not your future. Just talk to me about this future that you've seen. No, talk to me about.
So hold my hand.
Just close your eyes. What is on the horizon for you that you can talk about, and what area would you really like to explore that you haven't? If that's
so
a different
what's
question.
coming up next is I'm working on a big show in New York City, so that's gonna be a big one, and that's gonna happen in June, late June. So that's my main focus right now, but at the same time I have like a bunch of like side projects involving brands, some of them. And this one special project that is sitting right there. I think you can see it from there.
I can see a special project, but we're not allowed to talk about a special project.
So that's getting me really excited. And yeah, and always, especially for the New York show, I don't really know what's happening. I have a few prototypes at the studio right now, but I'm just, you know, landing back from Mexico, so trying to think more, and I'm like doing a bunch of like reading and like investigating. We're at that moment, which is like probably the most exciting moment. Then the stress comes in, but at the moment it's like all trying to find the right ideas. I have a few things that I already know, but it's like everything is in the air. I can't really tell you about the future because I don't know the future yet.
Yeah. Is there a particular project or space of exploration that you would like to go down, you know, that you haven't yet?
Yeah, have you seen?
Just in case any backers are.
Do you know this company Take on Graffiti from the UK? Actually, it's like this company that they invented this propulsors where you can fly like Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
Well, that I'm very interested about. If you guys are watching, no, honestly, I mean, how crazy is that? They literally, I don't know. I think they cross all the way to France on that thing. It's insane.
Yeah.
I think the future is bringing some things that we can't even imagine. Honestly, and it's going so fast that you and I, we're gonna see everything. Like by the time we're 80, this is gonna be a different planet. It's insane.
If there's one artist I can picture collaborating with an Iron Man jetpack suit, I think it's yourself.
I love that, dude. Please. I hit them up on Instagram. They're not really giving a shit about me. But
yeah, hit us up.
Awesome.
We'll do a feature. All right, Felipe. Thank you, man.
Big pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much for coming.
If you enjoyed that little conversation that me and Felipe had, then why not give us a like? Follow the channel, subscribe to Radio Juxtapoz. There's usually 2 of us. Evan couldn't make it for this one. We did try to set something up, but it just didn't quite work, I'm afraid. He is genuinely just better at this than I am. So, apologies for that too. But, nonetheless, we got through it. You're still listening. So, we've done something right on this occasion. One last time, thank you to Felipe for being such a good host. Genuinely, just really damn nice guy. All right, that's it from me. Till next time, peace out.